responsibility to work for human rights. There are no second-class human beings.
We come here today in our vestments because we recognize that we are not merely in a crisis of democracy, but we are literally in a crisis of civilization. And if there's ever a time that the moral voices of this country need to stand up, it is certainly right now.
We gather because silence is not an option. We gather because injustice is not abstract, it's legislated. We gather because faith does not belong only in the sanctuary. It must walk into the halls of power and cry out for justice.
Today, we have come to stand with Isaiah and shine a light on the wickedness of our elected leaders who pass legislation that harm our people.
Yes.
We love this nation, O Lord. But too often, America has chosen greed over compassion, violence over peace, and neglect over care for the poor and the vulnerable.
So we demand a reversal of this nation and state-sanctioned harm and a reinvestment in human dignity.
And we are called to confront the deep moral contradictions within our nation. We are called to speak up about how we allocate resources and make decisions that impact everyday Americans.
We need maybe to help them a little bit figure out what it means to walk in the ways of the poor, to walk in the shoes of people who are in need of health care.
My life is not a waste. My life is not fraudulent. Wanting to live a full life is not taking advantage of the system.
Struggling just to walk or do daily simple but not so simple tasks, I went to work. I did everything representatives told me to do, and you took my Medicaid away.
This administration says America first, but Jesus said, what you do to the least of these, you do unto me.
God, please rescue these children from our politicians who don't vote for their best interests and relegate our children to hunger and poverty.
We know that justice is not charity. It is the foundation of a society where everyone is valued.
We are family. We are neighbors. We are black and brown and white.
Our immigrant communities, our teachers, our workers.
These people are elected to represent us. And you have been hearing from people who know that they will be harmed by the policy that these folks voted to pass.
These are government-approved actions that will severely harm and that will expand the already excessive violence being perpetrated against the most vulnerable.
They are God's children, and their deaths will be on our hands if we do nothing.
WWJD. All these Christians, or what would Muhammad, Allah, Buddha do?
You and I together must win the war for our right to live.
We need to feed one another. We need to feed with food. We need to feed with love.
May our work be holy work, and our cries be heard as prayers. May our actions compel leaders in all three branches of government to recognize that policies that center the 140 million poor and low-income people in this country are also good economic policies that can heal and transform this nation.
If there's ever been a time we ought to intensify and embolden our agitation and our moral cry, this is the time. This is the moment. This is the season. We cannot bow. We will not bow. It is your time.
It is your time. Your time.
Story, let it echo far and wide, make them hear you, make them hear you. How justice was our battle, and how justice was denied, make them hear you, make them hear you. And say to those who blame us for the way we chose to fight, that sometimes there are battles which are more than black or white. And I could not put down my sword when justice was my right. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Go out and tell your story to your daughters and your sons. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. And tell them in our struggle we were not the only ones. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Your sword can be a sermon or the power of the pen. Teach every child to raise his voice, and then, my brothers, then will justice be demanded by 10 million righteous men. Make them hear you. When they hear you, I'll be near you. I
How excellent and great is our God, one of mercy, grace, justice, who crowns us with loving kindness. O Holy One of many names, we repent. Forgive us for being silent in the face of policies that have wounded our communities. We ask for your divine courage to speak up and stand up for our brothers and sisters who are impacted by these unjust acts. May we be enlightened from this emergency briefing that would empower and embolden us to engage, to raise the cry of justice with urgency, the urgency of right now, until the breach is repaired. God grant us holy boldness and the courage, faith to believe that our actions will not be in vain as we walk humbly with our God. Amen.
Dear friends, partners, neighbors, family, welcome. I'm Dr. Hanna Broome. On behalf of Repairers of the Breach, I'm the National Director for Religious Affairs. I'm grateful you chose to spend this hour with us. Whether you are joining on Zoom or watching on live stream on Facebook or YouTube, you are part of a broad moral community. People who believe policy should honor human dignity. Tonight is simple and it's intentional. We will tell the truth with clarity. We will lift testimonies from impacted leaders and move into coordinated next steps for our Moral Mondays. If you're on the Zoom, please rename yourself with your state and where you're from so our team can work with you. If you're on the live stream, stay with us through the close. We'll share how you connect with each and every one of us. Our commitments in this space are nonviolence, radical welcome, and disciplined moral action. That means we speak plainly, we make room for one another, and we lead with assignments, not just inspiration. You will hear data, you will hear stories, and you will receive a clear pathway to moral action. For accessibility, captions are enabled on the stream. Key links will be posted in the chat and shared again by email. If you need assistance, please message us support in the Zoom chat, and a team member will respond. Thank you all for showing up. Please share this link, share the live streams that on Facebook and YouTube. Share this webinar. Your presence matters, not as an audience, but as a co-laborer for the common good. Let's listen deeply, learn quickly, and then move together with moral courage
and care. Welcome to the webinar.
Thank you so much to Reverend Dr. Della Owens, who just led us, Barber led us in prayer, to Reverend Dr. Hanna Broome, who just gave us clearly why we're gathered here on tonight. We put in the flyer, extra, extra, extra. Read all about it, because these are extraordinary times in which we live in. This is an emergency call to action for moral leaders and for impacted people and advocates. When we started Moral Mondays, again, first in DC, beginning with Ash Wednesday, and we summarily went into the rotunda to pray that the big, ugly, deadly, destructive bill would not be passed, certainly with the things that it would do to destroy the lives of people by taking health care and SNAP and funding more and more masked agents. We were arrested. People in wheelchairs were arrested. Impacted people were arrested. Clergy investments were arrested. But we arrested the attention of the nation. Many of you did not know what was going on until that time. The first time we did it, arrest 5 million people viewed it on social media. And more of you have begun to come and to hear and to know what is going on. We know, however, that mass action does not mean immediately there will be mass change, because the forces of injustice are dug in. They're committed to authoritarianism. They're committed to lies. They're committed to neo-fascism and greed and hate rather than love and justice. So why do we continue to act? Because we are required to act. First, the Bible tells us in Ezekiel that we are to challenge injustice so that even if they don't listen at first, they will know there hath been a prophet among them, a prophetic voice. Secondly, we must speak truth to power, because only the truth can set us free. And thirdly, we must continue to have mass actions, to have mass education, so that the people know what is going on. And as the book of Amos tells us, the remnant can cry out as though something is wrong, and that will build and continue to build a standard that is raised in the midst of this political violence and onslaught. And we must continue to sear the consciousness of the people so that they will use every nonviolent method, from civil disobedience to prayer to participating at the ballot box, to, as my dear sister Carolyn Foster prayed, course correct the course of this nation. Just before we got on, we were saying in this moment, there are 3 things that we cannot do. We cannot be silent. We cannot be invisible. And we cannot have fear. We must have courage. Courage to know that others before us face more than we face now. And if they stood then, we must stand now. Courage to know if we don't speak up on behalf of our people, if not who, if not us, who? If not now, when? Visible, because we must realize that nobody, and show them, they must realize, will drive us into the back rooms of apathy and to the places of hiding like an ostrich and putting our head in the sand. No, as Langston Hughes once said, America may have never been America to me, but I swear this oath that America shall be. And this is our country. And we cannot be silent. Silent in this moment is as though we are going along with what's happening. Silence in this moment is complicity. Silence in this moment is betrayal. As the great Hebrew prophet said in Isaiah 58, in moments like this, when his Reverend Owens Barber prayed, we need to repair the breach. When the breach is being torn apart, somebody must cry loud and spare not and lift our voices like a trumpet. The word there is kol shofar, K-U-L, shofar. And the text teaches that everybody has a call, a voice, and a vote. And everybody is required to lift that voice and vote like a trumpet if there is going to be any correction to the times when there needs to be a loosing of the bands of wickedness. And so we come. Extra, extra, extra. Read all about it. We want to take just 30 seconds for you to quickly send 10 text messages and tell somebody to join you tonight on live stream, Facebook, on this webinar. We want you after tonight to push it out everywhere you can. Show it. Ask, if you're not a pastor or a rabbi or an imam, ask your religious leader, can you show it in the church? Can you send it to members of the congregation, members of the community, from the barbershop seats to the pews in the cushions in the church, from the pool halls to the pews. We want this message to get out everywhere. Thousands are joining us tonight. Moral Mondays is going forth, and we're here tonight because we're calling for a massive pray-in Moral Monday on October the 20th. You'll get more details about it. We're calling for it throughout the South, 12 to 13 southern states, but others can join now if you so desire. You will get directives both now and on the website at Repairs of the Breach. We're telling folk to go to the senators' offices, specifically those who have voted for this big, bad, ugly bill, and those who are supporting the invasion, unnecessary, unconstitutional, immoral of our cities, and engage in one of the most powerful nonviolent acts. When they were on the Edmonds Pettus Bridge facing the dogs and the horses, there's a scene, and Carolyn Foster knows about this from Alabama, where they knelt down in front of the forces and prayed, and the forces didn't know what to do. And that image went out all over the world, and it inspired others to stand up. So we're calling on folk to nonviolently, with delegations, of Moral Monday delegations, to go into those Senate offices on that day to pray. We're going to have another instructional piece later on how to do it nonviolently. But since many of them are locking the doors and keeping people out, we're saying go anyway and have massive prayers. Get 100 people, 500 people, 1,000 people nonviolently. And right in those, on the grass, right on the sidewalks, right where those offices are, with the media there, read the reports that you're going to get tonight, the facts, what's really going on, that will also be generated particularly to your state. And then pray, kneel, bow, lay, stand, however, and have a massive nonviolent pray-in. Walter Wink once said at Union Theological Seminary that praying is only for those who do. That praying is not for an act of those who don't engage. Prayer is an act of those who engage, because prayer is two things. One, it is to stand right in the face of power, and by praying, say to that power, you are not the ultimate power. There's something greater, stronger, more powerful than you. We have assistance from another quarter, and because we do, we will not back down. Secondly, prayer changes us. The old folk used to say, whatever we pray about, we become about that. When we pray about something, it is a sign that we're not going anywhere because it is a deep, deep moral commitment. And thirdly, Walter Wink said that prayer is like rattling the cage of God. In the Old Testament and in the New, when the people cried out and lamented, the Spirit of God, the Spirit of the universe, the Mother Spirit, as my Native American brothers, Native Indigenous people said, would wake up, if you will, not wake up from a sleep, but would seemingly, in our way of talking, give strength, give assistance, give power in order to continue to stand. And I can tell you there was a story in South Africa when 12 bishops went to a courtroom one day, in the middle of apartheid, and they came in their vestments and their robes, and they prayed in that courtroom. And one of the judges looked at another judge and said, apartheid is over. And the judge said, no, it's not. We have the power. He said, no, we don't. He said, they just demonstrated by praying in this courtroom nonviolently that we don't have the power, that what we're doing is crumbling, that freedom is coming. And they just consecrated the movement and consecrated their commitment. On October the 20th, we're calling people all over the South, all over the country to pray, to consecrate, to pray prophetically, to pray change, to pray truth, to pray nonviolently, to let the bend of your body and the bend of your knees and the bowing of your heads not mark submission, no, to what's going on, but to mark consecration and deep commitment to fight the good fight of faith until change comes. Now, as always, we never ask you with repairs of breach of moral Monday and any movement that we're involved in to engage without knowing what really is going on. So we have a good friends at the Institute for Policy Studies that has deep reputation and years of doing this work. And we asked them to put together 2 reports, I think. One report on what is really already happening with this big, deadly, ugly, destructive bill, particularly as it relates to healthcare and food and funding more and more and more masked agents. What's really going on? You know, some people are going to get letters in a few weeks already, 10 million people. And we're asking pastors to start identifying those people in your congregation and filming them. Jonathan will talk about that when he comes on. We're going to get that report and then we want to know what this shutdown. Because our cry should be, we shouldn't be shutting down the government. We should be using the government to do what the government is supposed to be doing. And that is establishing justice and providing for the common defense and promote the general welfare. And make no mistake, the government is not shut down because both sides have equal fault. One side wants to use it to destroy the government, use it to undermine the government, use it to fire people and hurt more people. And the other side is saying we will not pass anything else to keep the government open, while at the same time, you're striking people off of health care and refusing to care about the lives of the least, the lives of the sick, the lives of the hurting. So we're going to have these 2 reports, and always our reports are strong and tough. And yes, sometimes they make you not mad, but angry, because it's grief inside of these reports. These numbers represent real people, but we need to know why this is an emergency moment. And these reports, and Dr. Broome, the way she sets things up, she does it in a way that you're able to use these reports anywhere. You can share them, you can push them out. And so, Dr. Broome, thank you so much for the constant and consistent work that you do as our National Religious Director, and how you continue to call us to courage and call us to be consistent, as you said, to learn quickly and to act swiftly. I like that, to learn quickly and to act swiftly. Lindsay, would you share with us now? And then after that, we've got three people one from Kentucky, North Carolina, and South Carolina, and Alabama, who are going to come and encourage. They're already mobilized. They're telling you those states are going to mobilize and mobilize big. But they want to tell you why you should join in and why they are. Lindsay?
Barber, and thank you all for being here tonight. I know that we all know what a really critical moment this is. So as Bishop Barber mentioned, I'm with the Institute for Policy Studies, and we put together some fact sheets and reports. We've done a series of them for Bishop Barber and for Repairers of the Breach, and I'm here tonight to talk about two of them, focusing on two different parts of the Trump Republican budget. And it's no accident that these are both budget bills. So the big bad bill from earlier this year and the government shutdown that we're in now are both part of their budget process. And this is how they're attempting to take over the entire federal government. This is how they're attempting to transform it into the parts they want and get rid of the parts they don't want. And in order to do that, to build power for the people they want to build power for the wealthy, for the corporations, for themselves, and in order to take power away from the people. So both of these different bills are both accomplishing that same goal. So earlier this summer, all the way back in July, feels like 100 years ago, they passed their first big bad budget bill. And that's the one where they made big cuts to Medicaid, the health insurance program. They made $1 trillion in cuts to that program. They made hundreds of billions of dollars of cuts to food stamps, to the SNAP program. They extended tax cuts for the wealthiest and corporations in the country. They also used that bill to push more money into the Pentagon, the military, and to push more money into their mass deportation agenda. So hundreds of billions of dollars going into those things. So those were the priorities of that budget bill. And that passed, and it was signed into law, and we have it now. Now, that's not to say we have it forever. And that's very important, because a lot of the effects of that bill haven't even taken effect yet, won't even take effect until sometime next year. So we have a window where we need to push back against that bill still. Even though it's passed, it can be unpassed, right? Congress can do something else. So that's the first piece. The second piece is what's happening now, is this government shutdown. And this is, again, because they didn't manage to pass the budget before the end of the fiscal year, which was the end of September. And so on October 1st, when Congress hadn't passed a budget for this year, the government had to shut down. There wasn't enough funding. Now, even that still reflects the priorities that I just mentioned from the big bad budget bill, because the entire government didn't shut down. Much of the government has shut down. There are 750,000 federal workers who are being told to stay home right now, not getting paychecks, just staying home. And it's important because the federal workforce is disproportionately Black, it is disproportionately veterans, it is disproportionately people with disabilities. And so the people who are being hurt right now are people that this administration is not interested in helping. And those are the people who are being put out of work right now. But there's also parts of the federal government that stay open during this shutdown. And that is most of the military. That is the ICE, the deportation agenda. ICE agents are still at work. The only part of ICE that has been shut down during this government shutdown is the part that's responsible for overseeing the humanity, the security, the safeness of conditions in ICE detention facilities. So those people whose job it is to make sure that conditions are safe, conditions are humane for immigrants being put into ICE detention, those people have been sent home. But the people whose jobs it is to round people up, to arrest them, to wear the people going out on the street with masks, taking people off the street and taking them into detention centers, those people are still at work. So you can see the same priorities in the budget bill from this summer and the government shutdown right now. So the other part of the reason that we're having this shutdown right now is because, unlike in the summer budget bill, where because of the rules of the Senate, Democrats had no ability to block that bill. For this, because of the rules of the Senate, again, they needed more than 60 votes in the Senate to pass this budget. And Democrats didn't go along with that and haven't so far. And what they are trying to get in return for agreeing to a budget now is to replace some subsidies for the Affordable Care Act that are going to expire at the end of the year unless Congress does something. And this is what Bishop Barber referred to about people who are going to be getting letters, I believe. So there is a subsidy for people who get their health insurance from the Affordable Care Act. There are extra subsidies that have been in effect that help cut down the amount that people have to pay out of their own pocket for that health insurance. Those subsidies are going to end at the end of the year, and it will result in, if that happens, it will result in millions of people losing their health insurance, and it will result in millions more people having to pay more than double for their health insurance. So this is over $1,000 a year more that on average people will have to pay if these subsidies are allowed to end. And so this is why the Democrats in the Senate are refusing to go along with this budget bill. They're saying, in order for us to support this budget bill, we have to at least save those subsidies and save those people from seeing their health insurance premiums go up by that much. And there are many more things they could demand, right? They could demand for the tax cuts that were put into effect for wealthy people to be put back the way they were. They could demand for the funds for ICE or for the military, that hundreds of billions of dollars, 150 billion for the military, 170 billion for ICE and mass deportations. They could demand that some of that be taken back. They could demand that all of the money be put back for Medicaid, that all of the money be put back for food stamps. There are so many things they could demand, but they've chosen to make their stand on this one part of the Affordable Care Act.
And
So
Lindsay,
yes.
one of the things we want to ask is, as we prepare what we're going to be sending out to people, can you work with us in doing that a page on that as well? What could be done instead of what's being done?
Yes, we can definitely do that.
I think it's important for people to say what we're asking is not is possible, it's not unreasonable. As you said, everybody that voted for this parliamentary rules say if you vote for something, you can recall it, you can call it back. But I think people need to know what could be done. And I want you all to hear deeply that this budget and this administration is choosing to fund Black Hawk helicopters and keep them in the sky, and to defund the health care for the parents of babies. I want y'all to get that you're defunding health care, but you're keeping Black Hawk helicopters in the sky to invade cities. And that is where there is this what do they call it when you cross planting, if you will, of the two evils. You've now got the mix up of the evil of taking away healthcare and the evil of Black Hawk helicopters flying over the homes and scaring babies to death in the middle of the night. That the way the funding is being mixed is one is being funded, both are being funded out of the same pot, and it doesn't have to be that way. And so what we realize, you all, for those moral people out there, is it's true once again that the love of money is the root of all evil. And that's why we have to first call it out, because as I see a lot of people are putting thumbs up and hearts, but a lot of people are putting the emoji that has their mouth open, which means that they don't know. I know I don't have my video on, Hannah. That they don't know what's going on. They didn't know. People right now are saying, I didn't know this. I didn't know this, y'all. And this is why we have to do what we're doing. Keep on, Lindsay.
Thank you, Bishop Barber. Yes, so that's absolutely right. We are seeing the taking away of Medicaid and food stamps is directly related to giving tax cuts to the wealthy. Taking away these healthcare subsidies is directly related to the fact that they're driving now $170 billion into ICE on an annual basis. That money is available through 2029. On an annual basis, that would make their new ICE force the 13th largest military in the world. That's how much.
Wait. Say, I want folk to hear that.
If
you
you
did you
counted,
because I didn't even know that. I mean, I knew it, but I didn't know. Are you
yeah,
telling me that from now until 2029, which is 4 more years, that they put in the budget 150 something billion dollars for ICE, which would then make our ICE agents larger than most militaries in the world?
that's absolutely right. Yes, it's $42 billion a year, and that is larger than the vast majority of the militaries on Earth. It would put it right between just a little bit smaller than the Israeli military and a little bit bigger than the Polish military. That's how big, that's how the amount of money that we're talking about. And they're using that money right now. They have 60% more people in ICE detention this time now than the same time last year. They have nearly 200,000 people who are wearing ankle or wrist monitors or otherwise being traced. They have said that they're taking credit now for the deportation of 2 million people already. And some of those are people who they're saying have self-deported, and some of them are people that they've saying that they've deported. But that's the scale of what we're talking about. And what Bishop Barber talked about is they're just not doing this because they feel like it. I mean, they do, but there is also a huge profit machine happening here. The 17 largest immigration detention centers in this country have more than 1,000 immigrants detained in them each, and they are all privately owned. They are all for-profit detention centers. And one of the CEOs of one of the companies that runs those centers earlier this year in August just talked about what an enormous opportunity this was for them. So they are seeing dollar signs in this.
That's right. So, folks, we want you to hear this. That then means, and I am gonna cut it on that because I don't want to see my face. So that actually means, then, Lindsay, that's one of the reasons why corporate folk are so quiet right now. Some of them, because they are making money off of our immigrant brothers and sisters, and the lie that these 2 million people are somehow criminals. I read a statistic that said less than 10% of the people even have criminal records, and the ones that do, they're not gross criminal records. Is that true?
Well, right now it's over 70% of the people they have in detention have no criminal convictions. And of those that do, a lot of them are for just minor things like traffic violations.
Right. Right. And the real criminal thing is to have a broken system. In other words, you won't fix the immigration system. People come here, they work and they try to live, and then you turn around and in this moment, you use the brokenness against them as a political pawn to move 2 million people. And really what you want to do is you don't want those persons to become citizens, quote unquote, because you're afraid of the political mindset and how they're going to vote and all those kinds of things and to change the demographic. But what's more sinister is, and y'all, this is why we must raise a moral critique. This is why we're saying to clergy, this is an emergency time. If we don't speak up in this moment, history will judge us really bad. We've got to have these massive prayers for repentance, prayers of conviction, nonviolent actions at these senators' offices, because they are funding corporate America. 17 of these centers are private. Private. Did y'all get that? That when something is private, as a private center, what that means is they have to have profit. That's their whole purpose. And the only way they make a profit is off of the backs of what they're doing now with our immigrant brothers and sisters. And believe you me, if the president says we're going to use now cities as training grounds, we don't even know fully what that means. We just know what we're already seeing, which is horrific. And so then on the other side, if you cut Medicaid expansion, who does that benefit? The private healthcare industry, right? Because it forces people to have to go out and pay more money for private. So this is for-profit meanness, for-profit greed, for-profit injustice, for-profit oppression, for-profit destruction happening right in front of us in a democracy. And it's a lethal mix of it being done under the guise of authoritarianism and a kind of neo-fascism. We need to hear this, and that's why this is an extra. Read all about it. Everybody mobilize on the 20th when you can. So Lindsay, give us a few more things before we move to our testifiers.
Sure. So as part of this shutdown, right now, I mentioned the federal workers who are being hurt by this. The administration has also threatened. Normally, we've had government shutdowns before. Sometimes it's a couple days, sometimes it's been weeks. What has always happened before is that when the government is finally funded again and opens again, those federal workers at least get back pay. So they have to manage to survive. We all know a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. Surviving without a paycheck for days or weeks can be very difficult. But in the past, at least those people have gotten back pay when the government opens again. So at least they're in some way made whole again. This administration is threatening that they won't give federal workers back pay. So that's a new wrinkle and a new way that they're trying to pull back money from people. The other thing is that they've threatened to fire a lot of those federal workers. Remember earlier this year when they fired federal workers left and right from all different agencies and we heard about it? They're threatening to do that again. There's also the fact that if they don't work this out soon, folks on this call probably know what WIC is, the Women, Infants, and Children Nutrition Program, that lets, poor folks women with children get food. That program is going to run out of money probably this month if they don't manage to reopen the government. And what will happen then, right now they have enough money that they can keep it going, even though the government is closed. If they run out, people will stop getting their benefits. So that's just another thing that's sort of hanging over everyone's heads with this government shutdown.
So you're going to keep the helicopters flying and the masked men, right, but then you're going to let food run out for babies. And preachers that are on the line, the closer we get to Christmas time, I'm thinking about how Herod went after the children and the ugliness of that. I preached a sermon some years ago called "We Wish You a Mourning Christmas." Those of you all that are hearing this, and I'm hoping everybody will share this out and push this out so that other people can hear how urgent this is, how urgent it is, and why we can't be quiet, we can't be silent, and we can't be afraid. We have to, in every nonviolent way we can, expose what is going on and raise the temperature and raise the criticism, because that's the only thing that really has the potential to force them back to the table. The one thing they don't like, the senators and all Trump and all, they don't like to be embarrassed. They don't like to see the pain of their position. That's why, for instance, now Trump has been saying he wants to change the name of the bill, right? Because it's too easy to flip it and call it the big ugly bill as opposed to big beautiful. They don't like that. They don't want, and they don't want to see what's happening in southern states, because all the southern senators supports this foolishness, and they don't want to see what's happening to white people and black people and brown alike, because this also is a mindset that comes out of the southern strategy, is that when we cut WIC or we cut healthcare, we're really hurting, quote unquote, those lazy people, or quote unquote, those black people, or quote unquote, those brown people, right? And what we have to show is that the very senators that are going back to their states saying how much they love Alabama, love Kentucky, love North Carolina, love Georgia, love South Carolina. Okay, let's expose what you're doing with your love. You actually love the corporate donors, because that's who you're helping. You actually love the owners of these detention centers. You don't love the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people in South Carolina who are every race, creed, color, age, sexuality, because it's showing in the policies that you're passing. And by the way, Lindsay, for folk that are here, by the 20th, will you all also be able to give us another page that breaks some of this down by states, so that when people go to those Senate offices, they can see the damage that's being done by the states?
We'll come up with some state fact sheets, yeah. Okay.
Lindsay, we call you, you're a preacher in your own right. Because the great prophets of the Old Testament were factual. They always, if you read their writings, they always were very factual. very clear about who was being damaged by mean leadership and bad leadership. And we want to thank you for your commitment. You're brilliant. We pray for you because we know it can't be easy reading these stats. It has to make you want to pull your hair out sometime and cry and curse and do everything else. So we actually do pray for you and the folk at IPS often because it's not easy to handle. My wife used to work with forensics and had to go in and actually view scenes of gory murders. And it's hard. It's hard to know. Knowledge is not bliss. It really isn't. But let's make sure that Lindsay's not worrying about this alone. People like her that do these stats. Let's put life to these stats. Let's use these stats to empower us and empower our movement to speak the truth. And the good thing about IPS is they not only tell you what's wrong, she's going to send that out to tell you how it can be better. How it can be better. We don't just curse the darkness. We also show the light. We don't just cry in sadness. We also we speak with joy even as we protest. So thank you so much, Lindsay.
Thank you, Bishop Barber. Thank you, everyone.
Well, I want to call on Hanna now, our testifiers from the states. And I want to start with Reverend Alexis from down in South Carolina. Reverend, take a couple of minutes and talk to folk all across the nation about why y'all are mobilizing in South Carolina. You're going to mobilize as many impacted people, the advocates and clergy as you can for this massive pray-in on October 20th. But why you're doing it and why you want to see other states do it as well at these senators' offices.
Good evening. Thank you, Bishop, and all. Thank you, Lindsay. Well, they say freedom is a constant struggle. We've struggled so long, we must be free. They say freedom is a constant struggle, and we've struggled so long, so we must be free. They say mourning is a constant struggle. We've mourned so long, so we must be free. That's why we gather here in South Carolina. They say healthcare is a constant struggle, and we've fought so long that we should be well. They say healthcare is a constant struggle. We fought so long that we should be well, that people should have access. And so we here in South Carolina have been gathering for demonstrations, are part of the Moral Monday Goes South, where we share our concerns, our stories, the numbers, and remind us of the moral imperative to keep speaking out and standing up for what is right. We proclaim that we will not sit idly by and let legislation that devalues, devastates, and deals death to the Constitution, to morality, to vulnerable populations who are in danger of having provision ripped from their hands. We will not be silent. While nearly 50,000 residents are in danger of losing Medicaid benefits, we're talking about a state where 50% of Medicaid spending supports residents who are elderly, who have disabilities. We've had testifiers come who emphasize their dependence on Medicaid programs, on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistant Program, that it is life for them. It is life or death. And so we show up to stand in solidarity. We, as a coalition of clergy here in South Carolina, show up at our U.S. senators' offices to carry coffins, to represent the deaths that will happen as a result of this big, deadly, ugly bill. And so I come as part of a team co-leading in a community who refuses to be silent as this nation funds death through militarization, death through cutting off humans from healthcare, death through cutting off hungry bodies from food access, because we do not want to pass on a morally bankrupt nation that spends money on the wealthy at the demise of the poor and low-wage people. We show up in South Carolina to remind us and others and our senators that the bill may have passed, but the fight is not over.
Wow.
And we keep showing up.
Yeah. Thank Lexus. Right there now, Hannah, put that in the chat. The bill may have passed, but the fight is not over. That needs to be clear. And thank you for saying to us and around this country, we refuse to just pass this on to our next generation. We fight the fight now. We fight it now. We're not even waiting until somebody said, well, the election, no, we're going to deal with the election when the election comes, but we must stand now. If we don't stand now, people won't even be girded up for the election in 26. Thank you, Lex. Thank you to all the folk in South Carolina. And while you were talking, it dawned on me that we ought to say to folk, I know it's a school day, but if any of you all on that day are mobilizing in their college campuses, get some of these young college students to stand with you and pray with you and to give them the microphone too, because of how it's impacting them as well. All right? What about it, Joel? You got North Carolina. You out in San Diego. If you're still on, is Joel still on?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you're
I'm
from
here.
North
I'm
Carolina.
here.
You know about how we've been battling, but where you are, talk to folk about why you're mobilizing in NC and why you want to see other states throughout the South and wherever else in the country to come alongside.
Yeah. Well, I'm in San Diego right now. Actually, we're doing some mobilizing here to take some stuff back to North Carolina. But I began this work because Reverend Barber made a call to clergy to come to DC. And something in my spirit said, I can't be silent. I've got to be a part of this. And so I joined with other clergy and moral people in this work. And we're making that same call again to say, clergy and people of moral conscience, if your spirit is calling you, you need to join in this work. You cannot stay silent. We're not the first people to live in political dysfunction, and we're not the first people to live in a time that feels like the world's falling apart and that there's a passing of violent and harmful laws. Right? There are plenty of moments in history like this, and these are moments where moral people and people of faith and people of conscience have found themselves trying to figure out what it means to be faithful. And so this is our moment to be faithful. We've been mobilizing in North Carolina because we've seen how this is going to impact our communities, with over 307,000 people losing Medicaid at a minimum, and even more SNAP benefits. And so we've got 5 hospitals that are at risk of closing because of Medicaid cuts. And as we've been mobilizing, we've been inviting people who are going to be impacted to share their stories. And over and over and over again, I've been hearing people from around the state share their stories, like Leah, who her rural hospital in Spruce Pine that she depends on, they've been to 4 times recently. She just had a stroke and couldn't share at our last Moral Monday because of that stroke. Her hospital is at risk of closing because of this budget, and she'll have to drive an hour away to the closest hospital. Kristen, a single mother in my church, a single mother of 3 kids. She's been on SNAP benefits even though she works all the time. She's worked her whole life and has always had to have some extra support. Her daughter is on Medicaid and has Down syndrome. And so she's at risk of losing that and the stress that goes into her life as being a single mother. And now with this shift in the ACA, we've been talking and hearing from people, like one person reached out just today and told me that they caught their cancer because they had ACA. And they were able to go to the doctor and get checked on and get checkups. And that's why they found the cancer. My own family, my mother and my siblings received the Affordable Care Act after my father died. That was the only way they could get insurance. And so unless Congress agrees to make a plan to extend these tax cuts, millions of individuals and families are going to be forced to make a decision about paying rent or paying insurance, buying food for their families or buying healthcare. And even more than, like in North Carolina, so many things are tied to this budget. In North Carolina, they just passed a crime bill, which our legislator passed and our Democrat governor signed. So when we talk about poverty and poor, it's not left versus right, it's right versus wrong, is what
That's right.
you say all the time, Bishop Barber. And so this budget, right, we think this crime bill is going to reduce crime by speeding up the death penalty and getting rid of cashless bail, both things which harm the poor. They're claiming it'll reduce crime, but we know what reduces crime best, and it's eliminating poverty, right? It's making sure people have health care. It's making sure people have food, right? That is the greatest way to reduce crime. And so what we want our North Carolina people doing, our senators, is reducing crime, making sure people have food, making sure people have health care, caring for us the way we need it best. And I was talking with a college student just this Monday who said, well, shouldn't our communities be doing that, not the government? I said, well, the government is you, right? We are the government. It's our money that goes to do this. And the government should be doing what we say it should be doing. And what we say it should be doing is caring for our communities, caring for our people who need it. And so this is an invitation, a call to all of my clergy colleagues, all moral people in North Carolina and beyond, to join us on October 20th and refuse to stay silent because our spirits are calling us to, because this moment is calling us to. This is our moment.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe, for reminding us. This is a calling, y'all. It's an unction. It's not something we want to do. It's something we have to do. It's something we'll be judged by whether we have stood or not. And so we want you on this call. Everybody's got a pastor, make a rabbi, imam, get this information, get these fact sheets. If you're a pastor, an imam, or rabbi, or religious leader, find 10 or 15 other colleagues and say, I'm going to make this tomorrow Monday. I'm going to be in my vestments. We are calling on people to once a month to stand together. And thank you for bringing up the people. What George just did and what Alex just did is they used their time to bring up the people. They're saying, we're not going to forget you. People bringing these stories forward, making the numbers live so that people can really see that you just turn people's ears into eyes. And that's so important as we move in this movement. And I'm glad you said that it's not about right, Democrat versus Republican. It's just as wrong to sign a bill to speed up the death penalty and take away cash as bail as it is to cut health care. And these extremists keep putting people in these tricks. And I don't know, they think if you'll vote with them on this, they'll vote with you on something else. And they never do. It's always a game. It's always a game. And we just can't play that game anymore. So thank you. Well, we got my sister Mary from Kentucky. They call it the Cane Ridge State. What's it called? The Gap. What's the name of that place, Mary? The Gap.
Cumberland
Gap. The Cumberland Gap. Well, there's a gap, Mary. There's a gap in the nation between the poor and the wealthy. We got to close this gap. Talk about why Kentucky is mobilizing, why you all are calling on other states to join.
You know, I think in the readings this past weekend, it talked about the chasm, between Lazarus and the rich man, and I think what we're seeing, here in Kentucky, there's 27% of Kentuckians, that's 1.2 million Kentuckians are on Medicaid, and they're at risk for losing that health care coverage. 14% of Kentuckians are on SNAP benefits, and they are destined to lose those, 277,000 people. These are human beings, our brothers and sisters, and we're all part of the web of life. So if somebody's hurting, I'm hurting also. If people lose their health insurance, then the rest of us are going to pay for their health care. I'm a retired nurse practitioner who worked 5 years in the free clinic here in Owensboro, and I saw what stress does to the human body. Diabetes, high blood pressure, early death. It's unmentionable what it should do. What we could do. 35 hospitals in Kentucky are expected to close because of the loss of healthcare insurance, Medicaid. We had a recent Moral Monday at Senator McConnell's office, and we were sent forth with the action call to speak out, to send letters, to call the senator's offices and let them know that these cuts are not acceptable. We will be praying in these offices again to encourage ourselves and encourage our leaders so that we will not be hidden, we will not be scared, and we will not be voiceless in these moments. You've said before, Bishop Barber, these are urgent times that requires each of us to put our bodies on the line, and we just cannot be silent anymore. And I know that in my spirit that I cannot be silent anymore.
Mary, I see your head shaking, and I feel the same way. There's something so eerie about being quiet right now. It's just, as you said, I know change is going to happen. It's got to happen. No people going to rise, especially the more pain. But I just can't rationalize being quiet and bowing down and allowing people who are human beings like me to think they can just roughshod over us and scare us into the silence and into the corners. And I want to thank you for putting that out there, Mary, as a nurse practitioner. You know, that there is some great sin in silence, but there's some great righteousness and freedom in voice, in saying and being like many of the past, and whatever voice I have. But thank God, if you stand up now, y'all, you find friends, you find other people. That's one of the ways your courage grows. You come tomorrow Monday, you find out you're not alone. That there's others, and I believe the day is gonna happen when people will say what that but private servant of the prophet said. He said, I see more now of them than more of us than there are of them. So let's keep standing and let's keep raising our voices. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Carolyn Foster, you down in Alabama where there's this great history, this great legacy. We owe so much to Alabama. Sometimes I think, God, we're asking Alabama to stand up again. But then you remind us that that's what your legacy requires. Tell us why down in Alabama, and I think there was a couple of pieces last time that were national news, and a reporter called me and said, you all got people mobilizing in the South Alabama. And they said, I didn't even think there was anybody that didn't agree with this stuff. And I said, you got the South wrong, my friend. You got the South wrong, and we're going to show you that you're wrong. So, Reverend, talk to us about why Alabama, why you're willing to go in and sit in an office, even if it means that for praying they arrest you, and why you're going to mobilize, and why you want to see other states in the South and other places do this as well.
Well, you were right, Bishop. It is our legacy here, and we've never stopped standing up, sitting down, praying, whatever was required when injustice is confronted, when we are confronted with injustice. And that's exactly what's happening right now with this big, ugly, nasty bill that's hurting 1.9 million poor and low income people right here in Alabama. 165 people will lose their SNAP benefits. We're talking about food for families, for women, for children. And 42,000 Alabamians will likely die because they lose their health insurance. And this is a moral issue. It's about hurting people who are already suffering, who are already in need. And our legislators, our senators, are very disconnected. For them, it's about numbers. But for us here in Alabama, we know it's about people. We know that it is an urgent matter. We've seen hospitals close all over the state. I heard one of our brothers said earlier about one of his members having to drive an hour to get to a hospital. We've seen that too. And the work that I do every day with the nonprofit I work for, we see people every day who come in to us needing food, needing financial assistance because of these terrible, terrible policy decisions that impact them. And you know, Alabama's theme or motto is "We dare defend our rights." Can you believe that? Well, poor income people have rights too. And so we have been mobilizing faith leaders, community leaders, activists, advocates, people of moral leaning for many, many weeks now, going to our senator's office who have been ignoring us. They definitely don't want to see us, but we continue to show up. We want to give them this data to let them know we want to put a face on these issues, and we will be praying. We carry coffins as well as a symbol of people who will die because of decisions and the votes you made. So Alabama is gearing up. I'm seeing almost every day these promotionals because we're moving into our 250th anniversary as a state. But we're going to turn that around because who are you talking about when you're talking about 250 years? They're showing all these pictures about diversity and all these wonderful things that have happened. Again, they're not looking at the people who are invisible to them, who are hurting to them. So we have to bring those faces, those people to the forefront. And that's what we've been doing for the past few weeks with More Monday, but that is our legacy going back to the civil rights movement of making people in power see the hurt that they cause through policy. So
That's right.
we are gearing up. We stay geared up, and we dare defend our rights. They're going to be hearing about the rights of poor people from us here in Alabama.
That's right. And I love the fact that you all refuse to let them think that everybody just agrees with this and let these senators come home. And see, the senators, what they like to do is pass stuff and then come home and hide. You know, and they cannot stand when they're exposed, and we have to expose them, because if you just keep saying it's Trump is way up there in DC. You have to let folk know what is happening now is happening because somebody that's your neighbor, somebody that you elected, somebody that claims that they care about you, and when you put diversity in, they don't know what to do with it. I'll never forget when the first All Monday in North Carolina, we walked in, and I was walking in with Barber Zelta, who was a young white lady at the time. And one of the representatives said, I thought this was the NAACP. Where are all these white Black people coming from? It's as though they couldn't imagine that world. Well, we want them to have that same, where are all these people coming from? Where are all these clergy? Where are all these people in diversity coming from? Where are these voices coming from? Because they don't want to ask the question about how they are hurting everyday people. So if you're mobilizing, listen to the folk today like Carolyn and Joel and Mary and Alexis. Get as many clergy as you can. Make sure, though, to get impacted people of every race, every creed, every color, every section. Make sure to get people that put a face on this. This is the time, this Small Monday, is get as many people as you can. If we delegation to go in and be willing to sit in for at least an hour and pray, we're going to do all the legal work. We're not going to get arrested. Let me just say it. We're not going to get arrested, but we're also not going to not pray. We're not going to tell, people can't tell us we can't pray in our own public office or our own public senator. We don't know what they will do. We just know what we're doing. We're going to arrest the attention of the nation and make sure you let these newspapers know and these TV stations, because at the local level, particularly out in the South, they often don't get a contradictory narrative. So when one comes, they want to report about it. They want to tell the story. And so let's make sure that we are pushing that. In other states, you can. If you're in a state like Virginia, where I think both of the senators voted against the bill, still mobilize and take people impacted and pray for them to keep fighting. Pray for those that voted against it not to quit, to keep calling for it to be brought back up. If you're in a state where you had one vote against it, one vote for it, continue to push, but do not stand down. This is a extra, tell everybody about it, moral call to action, and add into it this time that and call on these senators to challenge what's happening with these attacks on our cities. I'm telling you, it might be Chicago now, but they're already talking about Charlotte. They're talking about other places. We need to challenge that. You heard the connection that they're cutting people's health care, but keeping the helicopters, Black Hawk helicopters, waking up babies at night. That's just ludicrous, if you will. It's ridiculous. It's mean. And so we have to make the connection for people, Hannah, and we want folk to do that. Hannah's going to tell you now how you can go to the website, how you can get information, how you can spend from now until through next week getting ready, what time we're going to be mobilized, because we mobilize in unity, we mobilize together. We want everybody, tell folk, you can do this, you can do this, you can come out, you can take an hour. As Jesus said, can't you just pray with me 1 hour? You can engage in a prophetic act of nonviolent resistance to what's going on. You can do this. You can do this once a month. We got some big news coming too. I can go ahead and tell you, and then I'll let Hannah take over. We're also saying that any groups in the state that want to, if there's another group in the state or organization, call on them. If your PPC in the state, I can't tell them to, but you all can, mobilize in the state. This is the time for us to mobilize together in the state. Indivisible is pushing out what we're doing on the 20th. There's a massive Indivisible gathering across the country on the 18th, which is that Saturday. And then Indivisible is telling people to show up at these Moral Mondays on the 20th. And we announced publicly just the other day on Substack that Repairs of the Breach and Indivisible and the Moral Monday movement are going to partner in November for a massive national Moral Monday across the country. You'll hear more about that. Hannah will be bringing it to you around the 20th of November, right before Thanksgiving. And we're talking about a massive calling on just faith leaders from everywhere. What you all are doing in the South, we've gotten calls now from LA and Chicago and these other cities. They want to do Moral Mondays in the cities that are being targeted by ICE. I'm telling you, the South is rising, and you all are inspiring folk across this country to take moral action. I was on the plane the other day and somebody said, what can I do on a Monday? How can I? I'm not in a southern state, but I want to be a part. Let's continue, because as the cries of the people rise, I never forget what God told Amos, then I will visit you. God says, then I will come and help you. And when I come and help you, justice will roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Anybody still got some faith today? And faith is rooted in reality and not just hope, not just a kind of a feel good, but you know, as the folk used to sing, the Lord will make a way somehow. And I believe if we continue to do this, we're going to see some things in 26 turn out the ballot. We're going to see some things that people thought they were going to do and get away with it. They're going to implode right in their face, because you can't create this much pain and eventually that pain not turn on you. And you have to face that pain and a lot of times undo what you did because you thought you could handle it. But this country, these politicians can't handle 16 million people hurting. Right now, they're not felt it yet because they created so it's not happening immediately. But as it happens, it's going to become more and more critical, more and more stressful for the systems. And what we have to do is already be pointing people toward nonviolent action, because the change is going to come. I'm believing today that something that George White said in 1902, out of the ashes of this moment, we will rise like a phoenix. Out of the ashes of this moment. It's hurtful, it's painful, but there is going to be a greater drive for healthcare, for things like SNAP. And I believe when the change comes and new people are in office, we're going to get the universal healthcare, and we're going to get some other things because of the pain of this moment. People are going to say, no longer are we going to let these things be subject to one person, one president, or one group being elected. We have health care and protection of our community ought to be our right and not left up to the whims of one particular party or one particular person or one particular Senate at one particular time. Some things ought to be, as you said, you all said, just like when the government shuts down, they said that the military still stays open. Well, the government shut down, your health care should still stay up. Your benefits should still stay. People have rights and the poor have rights. So Hannah, if you take us through, and then Reverend Dr. Della will close us with benediction and prayer. And we thank all of you, all the hearts, all of the, I didn't know that, but this is why we're doing this tonight. We are intense in this moment. Don't you make any mistake. This is a call. This is a urgent call. If there's ever been a time to stand up and make yourself known and heard and refuse to hide and to have courage and not fear, it is right now. Hannah.
Thank you, Bishop, so much for everything on tonight. The facts, the clergy leaders in the southern states bringing their voices to all that were on, all that are viewing it online, on YouTube, on Facebook, those that are going to retweet it. We need you to go to the website. That is how you're going to be able to sign up your delegation. Go to the website, say, yes, I want to be a part of a group of 5 to 10 that can go to a senator's office, that can go to a representative's office to pray. We want to make sure that we give you all the resources that you need for your pray in on October the 20th. So we need everyone, as soon as this is over, after we pray, after we've dismissed, we want you to go to the website, sign up to the prophetic council, sign up to the newsletter, and you will get the instructions on how to sign up your delegation of 5 to 7.
Hannah,
Yes, sir.
Hannah, for this one, 5 to 7 can go in to pray, but we want them to mobilize as many people. I want to make sure people don't. This is the time to go big.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes, sir. So this is the time, as he says, this is time to go big. We want those that are going into the offices be between 5 and 7, making sure those impacted voices are being heard. Those that are pastors or clergy or imams and rabbis over synagogues and temples and mosques and faithful congregations. If someone in your congregation has received that letter saying about their premiums going to be increased, we want to hear those stories. There'll be another sign up just for that, because we want to make sure those stories are heard as well. So all of this is going to be on the website. Give us 24 hours from this webinar to have all those links available to you. But we want you to go to Repairs of the Breach website, get that information, download the reports will be there as well that was discussed on this webinar. The reports will be there as well. We want to inform you, get you as much information as possible so that when you're out there praying, when you're out there standing together in solidarity, all of our faith traditions have the 3 common words that are binding us together: love, justice, and mercy. And so we want to make sure that each one of us are standing in solidarity, moral fusion, a moral analysis of the situation, moral action. Stand together, stand in solidarity, stand with your brothers and your sisters at every senator's office, every representative's office, every space where they're holding power, where they're hurting and harming our neighbors. So we want to make sure within 24 hours, those links will be available for you. And then you'll be having a follow-up call from either me or one of the team. So I want to thank everybody on tonight as we are closing out this space. Thank you all for taking this time and this opportunity to be with us.
Thank you, Dr. Broome. As a pastor, I also want to echo what she said, how important it is for all of us to continue to push, stand together. As a pastor, I've invited my whole congregation tonight to join this webinar in lieu of Bible study because of the urgency and how important it is, because I know in my community, there are people who need health care. There are people in my family who are on Medicaid. And so it is so important. So pastors, I'm calling you to do the same thing. When you get this information, please, please share this with your congregation, share it in your community, and to push this out. We must. This is a fight that we are called by the Spirit, called by God to proclaim in this moment. And as we close out, I want us to leave with this meditation and this word from Jeremiah, because I believe in this moment we are being called as Jeremiah to send a message to those who sit in the Senate offices. And it's from Jeremiah 22, a very familiar text. And so that's what I want our benediction to be on tonight. And it is a call to action. And from the Message Bible, God speaks to Jeremiah and he gives him an order. Says this is God's order to go to the royal palace. And for us, let us go to our senator's office and to deliver God's message and say to them to listen to what God has said, that we are to say, attend to the matters of justice, set things right between people, rescue the victims from their exploiters. Don't take advantage of the homeless, the orphan, the widow. Stop the murdering. Stop the murdering. And then the text tells us that if you obey these commands, then the kings, the senators, will follow in the line of David and will continue to go in and out of their palace gates, in and out their senator's office. But if you do not, these commands, then I swear, God's decree that this place will end up in ruins. So tonight, let us take heed to the prophet Jeremiah and let us go to our senator's office on those dates, October 20th, and that we go standing in the gap for the least of these, to be a voice, standing and speaking and not being silent, and that we go in the Spirit of God, courageous and empowered by God, to go into those places and say, tend to the matters of justice. God bless you. Grace and peace.
And it's our first responsibility to work for human rights. There are no second-class human beings.
We come here today in our vestments because we recognize that we are not merely in a crisis of democracy, but we are literally in a crisis of civilization. And if there's ever a time that the moral voices of this country need to stand up, it is certainly right now.
We gather because silence is not an option. We gather because injustice is not abstract, it's legislated. We gather because faith does not belong only in the sanctuary. It must walk into the halls of power and cry out for justice.
Today, we have come to stand with Isaiah and shine a light on the wickedness of our elected leaders who pass legislation that harm our people.
Yes.
We love this nation, O Lord. But too often, America has chosen greed over compassion, violence over peace, and neglect over care for the poor and the vulnerable.
So we demand a reversal of this nation and state-sanctioned harm and a reinvestment in human dignity.
And we are called to confront the deep moral contradictions within our nation. We are called to speak up about how we allocate resources and make decisions that impact everyday Americans.
We need maybe to help them a little bit figure out what it means to walk in the ways of the poor, to walk in the shoes of people who are in need of health care.
My life is not a waste. My life is not fraudulent. Wanting to live a full life is not taking advantage of the system.
Struggling just to walk or do daily simple but not so simple tasks. I went to work. I did everything representatives told me to do, and you took my Medicaid away.
This administration says America first, but Jesus said, what you do to the least of these, you do unto me.
God, please rescue these children from our politicians who don't vote for their best interests and relegate our children to hunger and poverty.
We know that justice is not charity. It is the foundation of a society where everyone is valued.
We are family. We are neighbors. We are black and brown and white.
Our immigrant communities, our teachers, our workers.
These people are elected to represent us. And you have been hearing from people who know that they will be harmed by the policy that these folks voted to pass.
These are government-approved actions that will severely harm and that will expand the already excessive violence being perpetrated against the most vulnerable.
They are God's children, and their deaths will be on our hands if we do nothing.
WWJD. All these Christians, or what would Muhammad, Allah, Buddha do?
You and I together must win the war for our right to live.
We need to feed one another. We need to feed with food. We need to feed with love.
May our work be holy work, and our cries be heard as prayers. May our actions compel leaders in all three branches of government to recognize that policies that center the 140 million poor and low-income people in this country are also good economic policies that can heal and transform this nation.
If there's ever been a time we ought to intensify and embolden our agitation and our moral cry, this is the time. This is the moment. This is the season. We cannot bow. We will not bow. It is your time.
It is your time. Your time. Your time.